Okay, hello. I think we'll get started. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for coming to this session. My name is Rebecca Welzenbach, and I'm Director of Strategic Integration and Partnerships at Michigan Publishing. That's a division of the University of Michigan Library. It includes our Ubiquity Press, our Publishing Services Program, and our Institutional Repository. And I'm the facilitator of this session on mapping the free ebook supply chain. So really at the heart of this session is a research project, a Mellon-funded project that we have going on at Michigan Publishing to explore this question, which I'll say a bit more about in a moment. But we have some panelists who are going to offer 3 different perspectives on sort of how open access books are found and used and get out there. And I'll let them do most of the talking, but I'm just going to briefly introduce both the problem and our speakers. So mapping the free ebook supply chain. This is the focus of a 1-year research project funded by the Mellon Foundation. And 2 of our panelists, Rupert Gotti from the Open Book Publishers and Eric Hellman from the Free eBook Foundation and unglue.it, are partners with Michigan Publishing on this project. And we're collaborating to analyze retroactive web usage data, as well as anecdotal data from surveys and interviews of readers and potential readers to better understand who is using the open access monographs that we've published and how they're being discovered and sort of to what use they're being put. Why do we think this problem is important? Well, an increasing number of initiatives focused in North America, Europe, Australia, and elsewhere are creating more and more channels for the production and dissemination of open access monographs and are putting forward new business models, particularly those that shift from a consumer pays model to a producer pays model, changing the whole sort of way that creating open monographs that the process is funded. One driver for this change is the hypothesis that releasing an ebook under an open access model expands the readership and perhaps finds readers who otherwise would not have known about or had access to the book. This seems to make sense, but we actually don't know if it's true. So part of what we're investigating is, are we finding new readers by making these books freely available? As well, while the open web is a very effective information distribution infrastructure, the book publishing world, and especially the scholarly publishing world, is dominated still by a conventional supply chain relying on intermediaries, taking proportions of retail prices to push books along out into the world. So what happens when those books don't have a sale price associated with them? How can books be included in those chains, or should they be? How important is representation in those spaces along with books that are available on a paid model? So as I mentioned, we're starting from a study of current and prospective users of our books, and we're aiming to understand the role of the conventional supply chain in these new models, as well as what new readers are out there. With that, I'll introduce our panelists. We have 3 panelists, and they're each bringing a different perspective to this problem today. First, Rupert Gotti is a fellow and director of studies in economics at Trinity College, Cambridge University. He's a co-founder and director of the award-winning Open Access Book Publishers, which was founded as a nonprofit by scholars at Cambridge in 2008. They've now published over 80 high-quality, rigorously peer-reviewed scholarly monographs. Rupert on this panel is playing the role of publisher, representing himself as a publisher. He'll be telling us about what Open Book Publishers does to distribute their monographs and push them out into the world, and what they're learning from that. Our second speaker is Eric Hellman, president of the Free eBook Foundation. He's a technologist, entrepreneur, and writer. After 10 years at Bell Labs in physics research, Eric became interested in technologies surrounding e-journals and libraries. His first business, Openly Informatics, developed open URL linking software and knowledge bases and was acquired by OCLC in 1996. At OCLC, he led the effort to productize and expand the XISBN service and began the development of OCLC's electronic resource management offerings. After leaving OCLC, Eric began blogging at Go to Hellman, where he covers the intersection of technology, libraries, and ebooks, and has written extensively on the semantic web and linked data. He has a BSc from Princeton University and a PhD in electrical engineering from Stanford University. And since 2012, he's been running unglue.it, a platform to both allow people to pledge money toward opening up books to make them freely available, and also to then find and distribute those books. Today, Eric is going to be telling us about the work that he's doing to gather, aggregate, and analyze the information that we're looking into about how these books are being used. So he'll give us sort of a sneak peek at the results of this ongoing project. Our third speaker is Jill O'Neill. Jill is Educational Programs Manager for the National Information Standards Organization, NISO. Jill has been an active member of the information community for 30 years, most recently managing the professional development programs for the National Federation of Advanced Information Services. Her publishing expertise was gained working for such prominent content providers as Elsevier, Thomson Scientific, now Thomson Reuters, and John Wiley & Sons. Jill continues to write for a diverse set of publications, including Information Today and the Scholarly Kitchen blog. And for today's panel, Jill represents the perspective of a user, in particular, a somewhat educated searcher. She'll be representing the sort of hoops and travails that a person goes through in trying to find what they're looking for on the web, coming at our content from the other side. And I will get out of the way now and let Rupert take us away.
Well, thank you very much. As Rebecca just said, we'll be talking about Open Book Publishers, which is the company that I founded. But I think, hopefully, the issues and the points that we're raising here, there's a lot of increasingly large number of innovative new publishing initiatives that are coming along, a lot of them based around open access. And so I think, hopefully, we should take this as an example of one of them. And some of the issues that are coming up and some of the things that we faced are being faced by lots of other publishers out there. There's Open Humanities Press, there's lots and lots. And one of the things about open access, I think, is that it encourages the development of new initiatives and new programs. And so the issues that we've got to think about is how do we get those developments through into the traditional distribution systems, rather than relying, as possibly has been the case so far, on a publisher doing that and being bound into this sort of publisher network. So I just sort of start that. But just to paint the picture for a second here, so as was said, Open Book Publishers, we do scholarly monographs, originally in the humanities and social sciences, more recently in sciences, and some textbooks as well. They're all, as was said, rigorously peer-reviewed. It really is, sitting in there in the scholarly monograph space is what we're publishing. It's all open access, so it's all on there. So those of you connected to the Wi-Fi can just go straight there. It's openbookpublishers.com. Have a look and play around and see the sorts of things and some of the things that we're playing with. This is one particular book, and I just raise it because it raises a number of issues about an open access book. So here, the book comes out in multiple formats. So it's coming out in paperback and hardback editions that are print on demand, and they're being distributed, as we'll see, through very, very normal channels. We've also got PDF, EPUB, and Mobi. The PDF in this case is free. The EPUB and the Mobi we charge for. We've also got, below that, you read the PDF. There's a free PDF reader online, so you can read the entire book online on a PDF reader. And there's an HTML edition there, so you can go onto that. And of course, that is, if you like, the definitive open access edition, because everything is copyable and pastable and everything with that. The majority of the books come out under a CC BY license, but we don't require that. So we do have a range of licenses that are in there. But on top of that, on top of those various editions, there's also additional resources that will go with the books. And one of the things that one is able to do with any digital book, but more particularly with open access, is that you're going to be looking to connect it to databases and additional resources that go with that. And so this web page is, to some extent, the definitive central hub for the dissemination of this work, because it's got all the various different editions, it's got different ways to view it, plus it's got links through to other resources that are associated with the work. And one of the things that is possibly problematic with the legacy route for disseminating ebooks is that quite often it's and library catalogues are defined around one particular edition, rather than seeing this as a collective. That's one piece of work which can be accessed in many, many different ways. Quite often it's seen that the paperback is different to the hardback, and the hardback is different to the EPUB, and the EPUB is different to the PDF, and all of those are different to the HTML, presumably. And that causes some complications, I think, in understanding that really this is one piece of work that can be accessed lots of different ways. Okay, so just quickly to get to what I've been asked to talk about, which is the distribution channel. We put the printed works through, would be a retail supply chain through, Amazon and other bookshops as well. And you can see that last year, I've got some figures there for what we sold last year. So last year we sold 1,000 copies through Amazon and that retail market. We sold about 1,200 from our own website. And that's a very normal sort of distribution channel. As far as ebooks are concerned, again, they go through Amazon and through the typical ebook platforms that you'd expect to buy a book from. We sold about 540 last year. So we've got about 85 books, I should say, right now. So maybe on average we had about 75 during the year. And so there's about 540 that we sold through that route, and less than that from our own website. Not that surprising. You can read it for free and download it for free from our website, but those were the ones that we sold from our website. Okay. If you look at the library supply chain, typically, Amazon, clearly libraries do access from, but typically libraries would be sourcing the works on the printed side from people like Ingrams and Coutts and Gardners and people. And we had about 680 copies last year that came through that traditional library route. But, Ingrams also provides to bookshops. So that's overstating a little bit what libraries, I think, were buying. As far as the ebooks are concerned, we put them through the standard ebook distribution platforms, the Overdrives, JSTOR, EBSCO, and ProQuest. In that case, it's quite interesting because we start with an open access work, but because of the business model of these platforms, they impose a DRM onto those, and they're priced according to the DRM that is used by EBSCO. So you can buy one of our books for a day's read through ProQuest, even though actually it's an open access work. Nothing wrong with that. At CCBY you can do whatever you want with them. Anybody can do with it. And people could be doing all sorts of things with it. So there's nothing wrong with that, but it is a distribution channel which has got that quality about it. The other thing is that, as we'll see, getting the MARC records from various different sources is sometimes problematic. Okay, readers are going to come through there, they're going to discover and access through those. Those figures are entirely swamped by the number of viewers that we get for our free editions. So those figures were in the low thousands. We got 310,000 visitors to the free books that are on our website or distributed through a large number of alternative platforms. So our free books are available on Google Books and World Reader. Wikimedia has got some. Some people upload them onto WordPress blogs. We've got, and so we've got this whole distribution network, which is swamping our ebook at about the ratio of 300 to 1. So it's really, this is where we distribute our content. Okay, now the problem is that the library doesn't sit in that ebook free distribution network. Nobody's really going to the library to do that. So one of the questions, therefore, is how do we embed the library into this free distribution process? And for us, we've looked to do this in a couple of ways. One is we've got the membership program, which we've mentioned, but this is a way of bringing books directly into the catalogues, because we can bring MARC records and one thing and another with that, so that the books are accessible and obviously open access through the library catalogues. That obviously open access doesn't happen when they've come through from some of the traditional sources. It's not clear that they're open access. And similarly, libraries are taking an increasing role, a dissemination role itself, in bringing books, loading books into university repositories, and then up into working with publishers such as us or University of Michigan or any of these others, working with them to develop publishing programs per se. Okay, so I've got to skip through quite quickly, but some of the issues that come up are data. Clearly, I was talking initially about sales and then book visits. These are clearly two different numbers. But 300 to 1 is a very, very big number. So I've got some freedom to say that more than one person reads a book that's been sold. There's lots of issues about the multiple formats that you'd be expecting. The issue is, who are all those readers that we're accessing? Are they the same readers as before? Are they different? And that's one of the things we don't understand, which this study was to look at. DRM versus reuse. This is a big issue. Open access books are not just free books, they're reusable books. And that reuse is really, really important. So the difference between what DRM does and what's facilitated by reuse is important. Discovery, where are people discovering the works? Is it through library catalogs or is it through Google? Then we've got bunches of issues about metadata and how we bring metadata and data into the sort of traditional e-book even, let alone printed book, networks within universities and libraries. And then finally, of course, there's an ownership issue. Open access means you can own the work. You don't have to rent it. And there's a big issues there about what that means and also about what the library's role in archiving of those are. So, Rebecca mentioned this Mellon study that we're doing. That's really looking at 4 of those really critical issues. Issues about the formats, the readers, who they are, where they are, why they're accessing the works, how the works are going to be reused and how DRM free content might be used differently, and some of the discovery channels. Okay, thank you. And I have mentioned that we have a library membership scheme, but do feel free to join. And there's my email if anybody wants. Escape is the thing.
Show. There you go. All right, super. So the origin of this whole study came about when I went and talked to the Mellon Foundation, and I was talking about how we were trying to address some of the supply chain issues for free books because the conventional supply chain breaks when the books are free. And Don Waters asked me, well, what is the supply chain for books like, and do we need to worry about whether it'll break or go away, or do we need to support it? And I said, well, I think it's probably mostly people going to Google, and they're pretty efficient at that, so I don't think it. And anyway, the bottom line was I didn't really know. I didn't have any data to support what I was saying. And I said, well, if I had my act together, I would do this set of studies. And so Mellon Foundation said, go and do this sort of set of studies. So that's what we're doing. And so the questions, or one of the questions we're looking at is how do readers find out about open access ebooks? So our guesses coming into the study, I want to be honest about what our preconceptions was. Google basically is the first place that I would go, so I assume that that's where most people would go first if they want to find free stuff. I occasionally click on stuff that my friends send me over from Facebook or from Twitter, so maybe social networks are also important. I don't know how much, but I think occasionally people probably use the library. At unglue.it, we've had all sorts of support from libraries and librarians. So we know that librarians want to support open access. So maybe they have supported access, but we would like to see some data. So the approach for the whole study, first of all, we wanted to collect all the data, the log data, the usage data that we could get. And this turned out to be a lot more work than we thought possible. We chose to work with the two publishers who I knew were most interested in studying these kinds of problems, University of Michigan Press and Open Book Publishers. And the nice thing about working with two publishers is if you see the same thing in two completely different publishers, you think maybe it's going to be real. And if you see something different, well, maybe it's that one press is doing it different from another press, and that's interesting to know too. The downside, of course, is that each of the two publishers have totally different processes, totally different ways to keep their data, and it multiplied the work involved by more than a factor of 2. So then once we get all the data, which we now have done, halfway through the study, we've accomplished that much. The goal is to study the data, do all sorts of statistical analysis, sort it by book, and we have 168 books that we are studying, and also by the referrer. And when you get log data from a web server, you get information about the website that people have clicked from to get to your website. So what we wanted to do is compare and contrast these. In addition, we realized, having gone through the process of starting up a company and everything, it's really important to ask the users. So we thought about how we could ask the users, and so we have two things we're doing. We're doing interviews of users, like we'll call them on the phone and ask them. And second, we developed a online survey tool that that the publishers are embedding in the books, in the digital books, so that people can click on and answer a set of questions about how they found the book and how they're going to use the book. So that's the approach. First, the survey application. I want to say a little bit about that. We developed it based on an open source survey application. We did some modifications to have it suit our purposes so that we could have a different survey for every book. And if you want to go to GitHub eBook Foundation /FEF questionnaire, you can download the source of the survey application. It's a Django web app if you're into that. Or you can just click on the link there, or go to unglue.it and look at the description of open access ebooks. That's a book. It's an ebook. It is open access, and you can try the survey there. And you feel free to just try out the survey. Your answers don't have to be real, because we know that for this book we have a particular demo survey, and we're going to ignore stuff or exclude the results for this book from the survey that we're doing. So go check it out. So now we have gotten to the point where we're starting to do some analysis of the results. And so here is the first set of results. I think you probably can't read much. Can I point here? Can I use a pointer here? Is there a pointer?
Nope. No pointer.
All right. All right. Okay, so this is the total number of reads for the University of Michigan Press website, sorted by the source of the traffic. So the big box, as I'm sure you expected, is Google. The size of the box is the number of reads, and we've scaled it so that if someone just comes and looks at one page, that doesn't count at all. So this is tracking the number of people who come and read more than one page. The second biggest box is question mark, question mark, question mark. Google Analytics calls this a direct traffic, but really that means that they don't know. It could be someone who's bookmarked it. It could also be a referral from a website that is delivered over HTTPS. Now, the way the internet works is that if someone clicks a link from a secure website to an insecure website, the refer information doesn't get transmitted, for security reasons, of course. Because both the Open Book Publishers site and the University of Michigan Press site are delivered insecurely, that will exclude refer information from secure websites. So that's one good reason for publishers to switch to HTTPS, because otherwise you'll lose all this information increasingly. Quick question?
Is this all relative to Google about 2/3 of use?
Yes. All right. So you can't see all those other ones. So let's exclude all the Google traffic and all the who knows what traffic and see what it looks like. So now you can see that all the rest is from academic sites, .edu sites, in other words, Yahoo, Bing, Facebook, email, Baidu, Wiki, Twitter. There's a hotspot on the right side for AAUPNet. So those are people who come from the AAUPNet portal. If you look like right in the middle, right next to that bright spot, can you point out library there? Right there, that's the library. So to get the library traffic, we included all the traffic from library websites, all the traffic from things like Summon, SFX, Primo, all those things. All of that is aggregated into that one little box. And so it's kind of small. All right, let's look at a different publisher to see if what we have seen here is general or whether it's just bizarre. Okay, this is Open Book Publishers. Again, the biggest box is Google. Second biggest box is, I don't know what it is. But then the rest are, there's a really big box. It's a number three in volume called Library. So this is one big difference between the two publishers. For some reason, the relative importance of traffic from library websites is much bigger for Open Book Publishers than from University of Michigan. Now, there are two ways to interpret this. One is that Open Book Publishers is doing a good job of getting libraries to link to them. Or two, that University of Michigan Press is doing a really good job of search engine optimization with Google. We will find out as we do further analysis which of these is true. But there are differences in the business models, so it's quite possible that this is a positive effect where libraries have developed relationships with Open Book Publishers to drive traffic to them. The other thing I want to note on this one is one of the big boxes is DOAB, Directory of Open Access eBooks. That's down at the bottom on the right. Okay, that box. Yeah. So this is very rough data. We just got the results very recently. And so we still need to go in and look carefully to see whether the things that we see are real or not, and to remove artifacts and things like that. But there are a whole bunch of other things. We haven't even started the book-by-book analysis. So this is just a little taste of what's to come. And please follow what we do, and we'll have the rest of the story later. So the initial result we saw, yep, Google, that's where most of the traffic comes from. On the social networks, we see significant traffic from Facebook and Twitter. And library discovery doesn't seem to be something that's fixed. It can be either very small or very big. Thanks.
Okay, so I'm here standing before you as a reader. And what is the reader thinking about? What is the reader concerned with? And how does this play into open access monographs? And I will tell you that none of what I'm going to show over the course of this presentation was made up for this presentation. These are truly the experiences that I had looking for scholarly works. So I'm sitting on the couch, I'm reading a book about Jane Austen, and I see a quote that makes me think, oh, that would be a really interesting book to read. And all I know about this book in large part is that the publication date is 1951, so I am sure that this is not public domain. It may or may not still be in print. My first thought was to go to Amazon, where Amazon says, oh, well, you know, we can sell you 2 used copies. But I happen to notice that there is a single-star review of this title. And the reviewer actually seems to have some knowledge of Jane Austen, literary criticism, and he largely suggests that Marvin Mudrick's argument is not worthwhile. So maybe at this point I decide I want to evaluate a little bit more. Amazon doesn't offer me a preview, so then I decide to go over to Google Books. Google Books offers me a preview, but as you might expect, about every 3rd page of the chapter in which I really have an interest, every 3rd page was blocked out. And Google tells me very specifically there is no ebook edition available. So I give a heavy sigh and I go to WorldCat thinking, oh, well, now I'm going to have to go physically to the library to flip through this book and see if it's what I really want to read. I search WorldCat to see if it's at Swarthmore, if it's at University of Pennsylvania, St. Joe's, and I get to WorldCat and they tell me, oh, yes, there are 6 editions of this book and one of them is an ebook. Well, that's exciting. Where do they tell me I can look at it? And they tell me very specifically that HathiTrust will offer me a limited view of the book. So, okay, let's go see if it's the same view that Google was willing to give me. I go over to HathiTrust, and lo and behold, I have complete access to the text of Jane Austen, Irony as Defense and Discovery. I can search it, I can navigate it, I even have the option of generating a PDF of a specific page, a chapter, or the entire book, if that's what I want to do. Now, some of you may have seen last week an announcement that came out from JSTOR that talked about the fact that they were bringing open access ebooks to their platform. They're from 4 university presses, University of California Press, University of Michigan, the University College of London Press, and Cornell University. Now, buried in the second page, or second paragraph of the announcement that was sent to libraries was a paragraph that says, first of all, each ebook carries one of 6 Creative Commons licenses determined by the publisher. The titles are easy to use, no DRM restrictions, and no limits on chapter PDFs, downloads, or printing. Now, as a user, I'm not aware of this, but there is a certain degree of complexity that's being introduced into the system. I'm not aware of that. I'm also not aware of how much progress has really been made in terms of delivering open access books to the user. But let's go back and look at the user experience. I found that original book in less than 15 minutes, and nobody ever used the phrase open access. The downside of this user experience was that it depended very much on me knowing where I might be able to find out information. Let's be honest, WorldCat and HathiTrust are not necessarily the same significant name brands that Amazon and Google are. You can't count on the fact that the user will know this. You'll also may have noticed that at every single step of that search, I was given inconsistent, if not incorrect, information. You don't know why that happened. You don't know if it's a case of the supplier hasn't updated their information in their database. You don't know if if it's simply a case of information propagating across multiple systems, or if it's a case of the original metadata being at fault. So I, as a reader, have no way of gauging what the extent of access is. I don't know if I'm getting a preview or if I'm getting open access, true access to everything that's in the book. And the problem with this is that we're not saving the time of the reader, nor are we educating the reader as they go exploring through this process. So what, if I do go to the library, what do I see? What's really interesting here, I should note that this particular record does not reflect an open access monograph, but what Cornell here is doing is that it's telling me, you know, there's full text available from eBrary, and right below it, it says license restrictions may limit access. And then at the very bottom, it refers me to Google with the note that only select chapters may be available. Okay, well, actually, that's not bad. That actually communicates something to the user. What happens if I go in and I use somebody's discovery service? Well, in this instance, you know, I can get to open access books. But notice here on the left-hand side, there's a sidebar there that lists HathiTrust e-resources, and in parentheses, it says it has the words public domain. Now, that's really sending a mixed message, because that book that I found on HathiTrust that was dated 1951 is not in the public domain. Now, I'm sure the library put that there as code, sort of to send a signal to the user without taking up their time that this stuff was openly available. But we have to remember that open access and public domain are not synonymous phrases. It's a problem because what I expect as a reader is governed by what I see in the library when I'm discovering the availability of anything. Now, here at Staffordshire University, they had gone through the trouble of creating a LibGuide. And I liked this page because it has that glanceable icon of the unlocked padlock, and they've divided up the information between the journal content and actual book content. And you'll see they even list open book publishers, which is great. The problem is that I have no idea what open book publisher publishes. I don't know if they have anything on Jane Austen. Do I really want to go and look? And then you hit that horrible point where you think, oh, I'm about to find out what a publisher has by way of open access monographs, and you go through these steps, and at the end of it, you are told you followed a link to one of our old platforms that cannot be redirected, and oh, by the way, you should go look for our new branded platform. Again, this is not really useful when a patron's trying to find something. Now, the Jane Austen Society of North America publishes on a regular basis a selected bibliography of scholarship that has been published throughout the course of a given year. One of those segments here is given over to dissertations. And you'll notice here that there's only one title where I'm referred to an institutional repository where I might expect to just be able to find something open access. Everything else refers to the closed toll road of going to ProQuest. That's fine, but again, if we're trying to encourage and communicate with our patrons what it is that they can reach that is useful to them, we have to start thinking about these downstream discovery tools and figuring out how we want to make this information available and how. So again, this comes back to, as a reader, I don't really care about the business models that are in place. I really don't understand Creative Commons licensing, and I'm really probably not going to listen very closely if you try to explain it to me. But the rights that the user has in accessing something really govern all the use that they can put the content to. And, yes, PDFs may be open access of a particular publication, but that's not really going to work well on my phone. So again, everything that we tell users, that we're educating users about, with regard to getting to the content you really, really want, they need to know, because this is how they are properly educated in knowing what they can and cannot do with the content. So this isn't any one set of stakeholders' problem. It's not the publisher's problem. It's not the library's problem. It's not the aggregator platform problem. This is a problem that everybody in the information community needs to start considering and thinking about and working to try to come up with the best possible solution that is in service to the reader, because right now this isn't happening. And one of the things that really we can begin working on, all of these are equally important, but certainly as I stand here, a representative of NISO, what I'd like to point to in particular is the fact that we need complete and explicit and high quality metadata. And that's going to be a challenge because everybody has their own idea of what the metadata needs to look like and how that metadata is going to interact across numerous systems. So again, this requires total community involvement. And I just want to say that right now NISO is bringing together a working group that is going to try to develop recommended practices on ebook bibliographic metadata. So that's one way in which you can become involved. There's also the NISO Discovery to Delivery Topic Committee that is starting to look into this problem. There are additional discussions over the course of the Charleston conference here. There's a shotgun session tomorrow at 11:35 and a NISO update tomorrow at 3:35. And thank you.
Okay, thank you to all our panelists. I'll just sneak back in here for a second. We've run up almost against our time, so I'm sorry about that. If you have questions, hopefully you will come up and speak to us after. I want to make one closing comment and then maybe invite one question if we have a minute to do so. I'll just notice, you may have noticed as well, that the voice and perspective missing from our panel today was the perspective of the commercial aggregator or distributor. And we're interested in talking to you if that's you. That's part of our study as well. We'd like to conduct interviews with ProQuest, JSTOR, EBSCO, YBP. If that's you and you're interested in telling us about how your business is thinking about open access resources, we'd love to arrange a time to speak with you more about that. So please just bear that in mind and find me if you're interested. And then with that, maybe let's just take one question if we can before you run off to your next thing. Does anyone have one that they'd like to throw out? No questions. Okay, well, I'm sure people are eager to move. So thank you for coming, and do come find any of us if you'd like to follow up or ask a question one-on-one. Thank you.